Hello and welcome to Where the Living Room Used to Be, a podcast about Rhode Island's music scene. Hey everyone, it's James. On this bonus episode, Keith passes along some insightful advice about how to position yourself as an artist and the ebb and flow of working in a creative field. I really appreciate you all taking the time to check this out. Please, if you'd be so kind, leave a positive review. And as always, follow along on Facebook and Instagram at LivingRoomUTB. What is the best piece of musical advice someone else, like a mentor, has given you?
I heard Bill Harley told me a thing that was, this is like secondhand advice, but it's great because I knew the guy who said it. So I'm not sure if he's still alive or not. There's a guy up in Vermont named Benny Reel who was doing this kind of like neo-vaudeville scene up there. Mm-hmm. And we met him a bunch of times and did gigs for him when I was in Big Nazo. But separately, Bill met him and, Benny would conduct these workshops where we would try to help people who were trying to do this. Like, he would help them kind of refine their act. Mm-hmm. And he said a thing to Bill that then Bill passed on to me, which I think is really wise, which is as a performer specifically, and I think, musician would go into this. It is not your job to be the best. It is your job to be the only. Okay. So figure out what it is that you are and what you do that no one else does and go towards that. Yeah. So like, because especially with music, there can be not every kind of music, but definitely as artists, sometimes you find yourself quantifying your worth. Mm-hmm. and your chops. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, I can play, but I can't play like that guy. Mm-hmm. And so you can want to be the best at something, you can have that desire, but I think it was more speaking to the idea that like, be the only. There isn't anybody like you. So the more that you can find the uniqueness of you, the more successful you will be and the more happy you'll be with the art you're making. And that advice is exactly why when I started doing stuff for kids, I was like, well, what defines me as an artist? Like, oh, it's weird because it's like, it's music and it's comedy and it's characters and it's story and it's visual art. And it's like, okay, I'm going to have to try to put all those things in the show because that is me. Mm-hmm. And so though I learned heavily, in terms of storytelling from people like Bill and Mark Levitt and Len Cabral, like musically speaking and like the characters that populate my stories and the drawing that I do in my kids show, like that was very much like a conscious, like, be the only. Yeah. So that was, secondhand advice that I got from Bill Harley.
Cool. And looking at your experience covering, organizing shows and playing music and working visual art, like, is there something that you would pass along from your own experience to someone else?
Yeah, I think it's because it can be a very challenging path to take. And because you can be tempted to, kind of put all your eggs in one basket. I would say the biggest thing is to understand that and to trust that there's incredible ebb and flow to both the creative process. So in terms of writing music and playing music, mm-hmm. but also in terms of the work aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And having faith that things are going to be okay is tremendously difficult, but there mm-hmm. is a rhythm to it. And you have to trust that rhythm is going to be there and that mm-hmm. you're going to come out of the dark and that you're going to make money and you're going to survive. But to that, this is really two-part advice. It's like, so trust the rhythm and the ebb and flow of it, but also you have to be flexible in what you're willing to do as an artist, mm-hmm. or you'll die. Unless you're incredibly fortunate and like, this is the one magic thing I do and it pays me well enough to live. Yeah. For the rest of us, you have to take some gigs that maybe are not your favorite gigs. Yeah. To keep working. Mm-hmm. You have to do it. So I'd say diversity and flexibility in terms of your, what's in your wheelhouse mm-hmm. is kind of critical if you want to live. Yeah. That's served me incredibly well.
Just be
That's right.
open to it.
Just take the gig. Take the gig, man. Like, and you can draw boundaries. Like, I will not play in a cover band, or I will not, whatever. I'm not gonna. You can make boundaries on it, but but I've also learned like a lot on gigs that I felt like I was out of my depths, or like, can you play this church service? Like, no, but like I need the gig, so and it's always an opportunity to learn. It's not for it's not your last will and testament. Just do the gig.
Yeah.
Get paid $100 and buy groceries.
Yeah. And what is it that inspires you? It can be musically or just in life.
Well, certainly, I think this is true of both the music I do for kids and the stuff that I write for the review. And honestly, I think songwriting in general, like what interests me is like the coming together of stuff. So example, like what I said about kids music, parents and kids having to kind of like navigate life where their agendas are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Like those schisms, those rubs, those contradictions, those, all of those things where stuff doesn't line up perfectly.
Yeah.
But we still have to kind of trudge forward. That to me is the most interesting thing to write about.
Yeah.
Like, and because if you do it with, and comedically, I think it's what's really funny. Like how it's just the way that things don't quite line up.
I'm watching right now.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
From my own experience.
Yeah. It's like, how that happens. Like to me, it's a deep well of both comedy and it's a deep well of heart, because when you see stuff like that, like the comedy and the music and the songwriting that speaks to me is the stuff that, is when people are at their most vulnerable, and when they're trying to make sense of things. And like, so, that's really true when you're talking about parenting, cause it's so incredibly challenging. And, but also, relationships and friendships and all that navigation. It's like, there's like these brief moments where stuff lines up perfectly and it's, and then the rest of the time, everything's kind of like this. Mm-hmm. And that space, that's what inspired me. That's where I think all the funniest stuff is. And that's where I think all the truth is. It's in that schism.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
It was so fun talking to you.
Thank you for listening. In the full podcast, Keith mentions the cast of Benny's the Musical coming together to record the soundtrack. Well, the CD just came out, and it's really well done and really fun, especially for Rhode Islanders and those familiar with the store. This next song is called I'll Manage, and it's one of my favorites on the album. If you like it, pick yourself up a copy by using the link in the show description. Enjoy!
That's what I do. I'll manage. It's nothing new. Though I don't know how I'll see this through. I'll manage. That's what I do. Show them I'm grieving. Can't tell them I'm leaving, but I can't bring myself to lie. I'm no good at goodbye. When the ground that you stand on falls away, you count on is counting its last days, when it's almost too late to start again. But then I'll manage. Just how I don't know. I'll manage. I'll put on the time has finally come to go.